Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston. Today, we're discussing chapters 1 through 3.
Woo!
So excited.
But first,
but
first, previously on Wizard Team, if you were on our Instagram, we will have heard this already. But because Instagram sucks, it's not recorded anywhere except on Instagram. So I'm gonna say it again. Okay, so Amari Peters receives a briefcase from her missing brother, introducing her to the supernatural world. Determined to find her brother, Amari joins the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs. But when she is revealed to be an illegal magician at the opening ceremony, she realizes she'll have to prove that she's not evil like the infamous Knight brothers who once terrorized the unknown world. While dealing with the scrutiny and prejudice of the non-magicians, Amari and her new were-dragon best friend Elsie launch their investigation into the disappearance of Vanquish with the help of Dylan Van Helsing, a secret magician. While they investigate, Amari and Dylan partner up to complete their junior agent tryouts. Meanwhile, the Bureau is being attacked by hybrids under control of Knight brother Moreau's apprentice. When Moreau escapes, Amari and Dylan go to find him and save their older siblings, but it turns out that Dylan was the apprentice all along. Dylan kills Moreau and asks Amari to join him, but when she refuses, he tries to take her magic. Thankfully, Amari is able to defeat him and save Vanquish. Dylan is arrested. Everyone thinks Amari is now a good magician, but her brother is in a magical coma, and a magician named Cosmo invites her to join the League of Magicians. And that's where we left off.
It should say like the League of Extraordinary Magicians, just because I think that's the best. But anyway. So we open, one kind of like previously, but is important now, is that because Amari is in the Bureau or goes to the camp for the Bureau, she is now at a new school, a new fancy school. She's got the
scholarship. They got a scholarship.
Mm-hmm. Like Quentin did. And so she's at school with Elsie, and she says it's a sprawling downtown campus near designer boutiques, luxury shops, and a fancy art gallery. It's called Whitman Preparatory Academy, and it's an all-glass exterior, the line of cars circling, the large fountain out front dropping kids off. And quick aside, it's so stupid that we fund schools by our property taxes and racism and whatever, but like, it's just completely different hearing her talk about Whitman Prep. And partially that is because, she's going to school with her best friend and she's not feeling alone. But also, it's just like such a different vibe from the opening of the first book, in which she's like sitting in the principal's office. So she talks about
she's late.
Yeah, exactly. She talks about how she should be headed to school, but instead she stops in front of a rundown little shack that looks like it's been crammed between two larger, much nicer buildings with the faded sign Marco's Mini Mart out front, and re-listens to the voicemail from Elsie again. Come to Marco's before school, emergency. I also love that like Amari's like, if there's one thing about Elsie Rodriguez that she's learned, is that girl can't exaggerate. Like, Amari's like, when I say there's an emergency, you best believe there is an emergency. When Elsie says there's an emergency, it could be anything. It could literally be like the delivery guy was late. But then, this is like a fave, being best friends means showing up for each other no matter what. And I just really love that, because it's like, you can have like both of those things in your head. Like, this girl be exaggerating. This is probably no big deal. But also, what if it is a big deal, or it doesn't matter if it's big or not? It's Elsie, so I'm gonna be there.
Right. Or even if it's not a big deal to me, it is to her.
Yeah. And so I just love, again, like, I'm just gonna let y'all know that I am team Elsie and Amari as besties. I ship it, tugboat it. I love them to death.
I mean, how would you not be? Like, who, like, are there haters who are like anti-tugboat?
Right.
I don't know, but I mean, I just feel like it should be, it's like, you know, people talk so much about Amari and Dylan and will they, won't they, and the like magicianship and whatever. And I'm like, nah, man, the duo, you know, like,
yeah, no,
and I think
Amari
it's
and
also like
Elsie
people
are...
like wanted it to be like a trio because of just like, that's kind of been the formula and all that stuff. And I'm like,
it's not
the duo. I don't care. I don't care about anyone else. Like, these two together, going on adventures, just being there for each other. It's the cutest freaking thing. And she's
like, you know, like, they're best friends, and Elsie doesn't want anything from her. So
yeah,
like, even when Amari and Dylan were cool, like, you can't take out the part that he was like
setting her up,
trying to manipulate her, even if at a certain point he realized he actually wanted to be her friend. Like, it's not as
pure.
That's the word. I was like, is pure the word? It's not as pure.
It's pure. No, because we even talked about, like, even Dylan wanting to be her friend or realizing that he likes Amari, like, he has these expectations of her and he doesn't take her as she is. Like, what a magician should be, what her wants and needs should be, even though they come from completely different backgrounds. And like, yeah, it's just, I just love those two together. So Amari goes into Marco's mini mart and she asks well, first off, this is the whimsy that I'm here for. So there is a large, how does she explain him? A big bald bodybuilder guy in a muscles win tussles t-shirt is standing behind the counter. And then she squints and she can see that, like, there's tufts of bright red fur appear on his head and neck and two curved tusks jut from his jaw. But then when she blinks, he looks human again. And that's the benefit of the more expensive glamours. Even her true sight eye drops can't hold the true form with these expensive glamours, and says, like, this one is definitely something from Vivi La Boom's City Camouflage Casual Collection. The alliteration, the name Vivi La Boom, the fact that he is this large bodybuilder looking man who also has tusks. The fact that I don't know what that supernatural creature is, but I want to. Maybe it's a Yeti. I don't know. I don't think so. Do Yetis have tusks? I don't believe
it reminds me of,
I
I don't know if y'all have ever watched Chowder on Cartoon Network. I know you don't, Robyn, because it's animated. But
I know what it is, but I haven't watched it.
But there's this guy, there's like all of the creatures in Chowder are like animal-like, but also like walk on two legs, so like not. And there's a guy who is like a vendor, works in the market, and he has these like huge tusks and is like woolly and big. And I don't know if we ever get an explanation for like what that guy is, but it sounds like him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull up the picture so you can see what I'm talking about. It sounds like him.
I mean, just from your description, it does sound like, and they both work at a mini mart.
He works like there's like a marketplace, and he's a vendor at the marketplace.
Yeah. Sounds very similar. So this guy's name is Tiny, which is another, like, I love. This is the whimsy I'm here for. So she asked if I can use the restroom. She's like, why should I let you? And then he's like, why? No, hello, no, how's your day? Just give me the key. And she says, pretty please. And then he goes, fine, anything for a fellow human. And so then Amari leans in and goes, just so you know, we don't usually call each other humans. And he's like, but you're humans, why would you not? And she's like, well, it's just kind of assumed that we're all humans, so we don't say those things.
Call it out.
Yeah, we don't have to, mention
What's
it.
understood doesn't need to be said.
Exactly. And he's like, oh man, so many things to remember to fit into the human world. And like, it's just so sweet. Like, it reminds me of like when you're like, like you have like a first generation like elder or something, and you're like, oh, we don't, you know, you kind of correct their grammar, like, or an old person who like uses slang wrong and you're like, oh, it's not how you use that. But like in love and to like help him out, even though like, I don't know, it's just a very sweet, like neighborly kind of like exchange. Like she's building community and I love it. And so then there's a guy who was like hanging around the mini mart before, looking at like, you know, everything on the shelves as like off-brand and expired, just looking confused as to like why this place is still open. But like, you know, it makes sense. It's a tiny little convenience store, barrio, you know. And he's like, excuse me, I asked you to use the bathroom a few minutes ago and you said it was out of order. And then Tiny says, out of order for you, perfectly fine for her. Any questions? And Tiny says in a low voice, be careful, he has the look of a watcher. And so watchers are people who are convinced that there is this global conspiracy to hide the existence of the supernatural. And they are correct, but, you know, the whole point of the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs is to like hide the existence of the supernatural. So Amari's like, yep, gotta watch out. So then Tiny creates a distraction. And then Amari goes into the bathroom, which like is actually just like a doorway kind of. So like, yeah, takes one glance. And then behind the door is a completely different kind of store. It's Marco's Fine Desserts. And so it looks like just like an old timey like dessert sweet shop, soda shop. And it's only open to the city's supernatural community, meaning no disguises or glamours are necessary. It's got the best magical treats in Atlanta, Midas milkshakes, star-dusted scones, and even the world's best bad coffee, which tastes so awful it shocks you into perfect wide awakeness. No, thank you.
Robyn's like, I don't drink coffee to be awake.
I mean, I do, but that's not the only reason why I drink coffee. I drink coffee for the taste, damn it. Ooh, there's nothing worse than a bad cup of coffee. And to do that on purpose, the world's best bad cup.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all know about this, but there's like this new coffee that's like made out of like mushrooms. It's supposed to like help with like your digestion or your like weight loss or whatever. My mom is obsessed with like
the fact that it's like
because the
fad. How is it coffee?
It tastes
is coffee not
horribly, apparently.
Does it not come from coffee beans?
So my sister-in-law, I guess is the right, I don't know what to call her. She has some and she says like, so there's like it's like there's a mixture. So the coffee one, like there's this like mushroom powder thing that people are like just drinking, but then there's one that's like mixed in with the coffee. And so she's like, that tastes much better than just like the pure mushroom powder stuff, but it still is like disgusting as like a cup of coffee.
It sounds like a supplement more than it sounds.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like hot kombucha. Like I think it's supposed to do the same thing. Like it's like for gut health.
Either way
is what I could tell. Which isn't to say that that's good, but
isn't yogurt and kefir for gut health? And I'm not.
There's a lot of different things.
There's a lot of
fan, but like
doing lots of research.
Just look up probiotics.
Exactly.
Probiotics. The whole bevy.
Folks have made it taste good.
Yeah.
Or at least
that's what I mean. Like if you're gonna do it,
there are better.
You have to make it. You have to make it taste good.
Yeah.
Especially for
there. And I mean,
unless
it's been done.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. You know.
I mean, granted though, I do get it. As someone who can't have caffeine right now, I do understand the like need or want to like have something that is caffeinated that keeps you awake in addition to gut health. You're looking like that, but I literally can't.
I know.
So I'm just saying, I understand I'm doing
dry January right now, and my friends are like, "Oh, we went and bought some non-alcoholic beer," and I'm like, I could actually get behind that because I just want a beer sometimes, and like But with coffee, like it's like decaf coffee. I just don't understand. That's a me thing.
But what I'm saying is that I could understand trying to find an alternative that's good for your digestion. If right now, if you're in a situation where like caffeine doesn't work for your stomach or for what, you know what I mean? Like, I could see trying to find an alternative. I'm not saying that's the one, especially if it doesn't taste good. It's like, why? You know what I mean? But I understand the like.
Yeah.
and not necessarily,
And you know, everyone has their own
ads and like weight loss and all that kind of stuff, like whatever. But if you like need to be awake and need
It's
to
for your own need.
yeah, then like sure. But I would
I
hope
just don't
that
want to skip over.
they go back to the lab, I guess is what I'm saying. I hope they go back and
Yeah.
try to make
But
it
they were like,
taste
you know what?
experimenting.
It makes you awake, and the reason why, or part of the reason why, is because of how bad it tastes. And like they're like, that's the gimmick, that's the brand, ship it, and people are excited for the world's best bad coffee, and that just could not be me.
I just don't
Supernatural or
want to
not.
skip over the Midas milkshakes because I think that
Yes.
it's very fitting that this is based in like the
Oh,
South.
in Atlanta!
And it basically gives you a grill if you drink it
I
because it
did not.
stains your teeth gold. That's hilarious to me.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until you were like, let's not skip over the fact. And that is brilliant, actually.
Midas milkshakes.
No,
Like,
I
it's
did,
not what it's called. I
missed
like
that
it.
too.
I'm
That's
with
great.
it.
I miss the idea of like, because I was just like, you know, I'm used to like kids being like, you know, they have their like treats and they stick out their tongues or their teeth are blue or purple or whatever. But I miss the like cultural significance of having gold teeth. So anyway, so she squeezes between a couple of harpies. There's a tall yeti in a chef's hat, and she waves, "Hi, Marco." So, you know, putting the kibosh on, or maybe not, maybe at the front, but we just want to bring up Portia's theory from last book about the yetis as, you know, organized crime.
Mm-hmm.
And this is their front to like launder the money from their empire.
One of many.
One of many.
Diversified portfolio.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So then she spots Elsie and another bureau kid, Julia Farsight, which
I think she was mentioned in the last one too.
Yeah,
but she wasn't like around that much.
She was. Yeah. She was like mentioned in the opening, like, you know, but yeah. Whose heavy eyelids always make her look sleepy. So then she slips in with them and says, "Okay, what's so important? We need to meet here before school." And Elsie frowns and says, "I don't think I used the word important." And Amari's like, "You literally said it was an emergency." And then she goes, "No, I said emerge and see." She grins mischievously, as in emerge and see what I've got for you. Which, like, girl.
Stop playing.
Girl. And then Amari's like, "This is going to cost me a perfect attendance certificate. And you know how my mama cares about that stuff. The lady's already got a spot picked out on the wall." Like, I love these two. I love them. And then Elsie's like, the anxiety was the point. Like, you could tell she's just grinning. She's happy. She's mischievous. She's like, "Gotcha." She's like, "Don't worry, Bear's bringing his dad's spare transporter and we can be at school in an instant. As long as we're on the bus when it leaves for the Georgia Aquarium, Mr. Ames will count us as present." And then they talk about, you know, how transporters are they legal? Are they allowed? Who knows? It's a gray area. And Elsie finally starts to tell them why they're there. So she starts tapping on her cell phone and shows Amari all of the results on her name that she's found on the other net. And they're all nice articles. Julia says, "Even better gnomes and gardens wrote about you," and that she has a colony of gnomes on her property, and it's a real pain to get them to talk about anything other than flowers. So that's a real accomplishment. You're a celebrity, or practically a celebrity. And then she mentions that, like, people in the shop are even looking at her, and she's like, noticed that even some are taking pictures, that she sure will end up on Yerg, the supernatural world's leading social media site. And then she taps the first link on the Othernet search results, and it says Amari Peters, the good magician. And Amari talks about how though the whole fight with her and Dylan from Amari and the Night Brothers, book 1, was considered classified, word got out, and then the supernatural media started asking questions. So then the Bureau releases the footage of their fight, and the world got to see a magician choose not to become a villain. And I love the, like, Amari's emphasis on choosing, right? Because, like, you're not like the way that she was introduced into the supernatural world was like magicians are inherently villainous. Magicians are bad. They're illegal. And so she spent the whole of book one just trying to prove that she wasn't evil, she wasn't bad, and that she had a right to exist. And so then, and also that like Dylan chose his path in the same way that Amari chooses hers. So I just I like that we are never, at least in through Amari's perspective, we're never being forced to like assume good or evil because of what someone is. And so then
Wait, I just wanted to note that for me personally, one of the things that stuck out was the sub headline of like the controversial teenager returns to the bureau this summer, and the girl just hit 13. So I know, like, just remember how hype you were to be acknowledged as a teenager, and they are officially recognizing her as a teenager. And I'm like, I know she was hype, like a little bit inside, like yes,
but it also
I'm
reminds
a
me of
teenager
like
now.
of like when they always like age up Black children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like teenager, you don't think of a 13-year-old.
You
You usually think
don't.
of like a 16, 17-year-old, right? So like,
Mm-hmm.
it's both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also was thinking about how I called Aminata tween, and she was like, "How dare?" And I said, "You are."
That's how you talk about a 10 or an 11-year-old. Excuse you?
And that's like, you tween my nerves right now. I can't her in this phone and this texting. Anyway, so then she they keep talking about Amari's celebrity. She has 1.73 million followers on Yerg. And then Bear shows up finally, and he says the Ban All Magicians page has twice that many followers. And Bear is a hater.
He's a hater. Like, because why?
And like comes in on some hater energy, like right away. Right away. It's like just so in case you're confused, because you might think the bear is like teddy bear. No, I'm a hater bear.
And I appreciate that she explains immediately after that, like why he's here.
Yeah,
because it's just like, now, why would you be hanging out with somebody who is like this?
But also before, they're like, his dad has the gadgets, so that's also
right. That too.
If I'm gonna get my perfect attendance score, Bear,
right.
We bear with Bear.
Yeah,
we'll get this. Supportive gadget. I also like his hateration reminds me of how much like the Watchers that we just got introduced to are also like they're hating from outside the club, and he's a hater from inside the club. Just haters everywhere.
Ugh, everywhere she turned. So Julia wags a finger and is like, "Bear, be nice." He got his nickname because he's the tallest student at our middle school and an even bigger bully. So he's just like, he's a all-purpose hater, but like has a little special. Amari has a special place in his hater heart. He's the fourth member and only 8th grader in the school's Soup Club, short for Supernatural Club, for the Bureau kids who know about the world. And lucky for them, non-Bureau kids have zero interest in giving up their free period for a club named after soup, where you don't actually eat any. You know,
right?
Just talking
like
about
that would be a fun club if you're like, oh, we're gonna hang out and like bring different soup recipes and like
winter enrollment would be going up, but
yeah,
exactly. And they're like, no, we don't actually eat any soup. We just talk about the history of soup, and we assign each person to give a presentation on a cultural soup at the end of the club. Like, I'll pass. I'll go do something.
That's good.
So Bear sits down and says, "We're all here. What's this stupid meeting even about?" Like, how you know it's stupid? You don't know what it's about. Shut up, also, Bear.
Do they have to be in these clubs? Like, I know that it says that like there are different soup clubs like across the, different schools that kids are going to, but like, is it a requirement that you be in this club?
He's also a hater from outside the club in that like he can't actually be a Bureau kid because he has no magic. Like he knows about the Bureau world.
No, he has magic. He goes to the.
It's for Bureau kids who know about the supernatural world.
No, but he's in the Bureau. Like he gets like the alerts and everything later on in the chapter and stuff.
It's interesting. I don't know why I was reading it like he's around bureau people, but he is
Oh.
not in the bureau, and that was kind of part of his ire. But it's even worse that he's part of the magical world. Then bro, if you don't feel like socializing with other freaking bureau kids, then why are you socializing with other bureau kids?
I think it's one of those things where it's like they're the only ones in a school and he's the only 8th grader. So he's like, ugh, I'm just so like, you're
I'm
lucky
so
I deign to hang
But
out with you.
it doesn't sound like from his
That's
attitude.
the
I
thing.
can't see him.
I'm just
he's
here
not
so I
trying
don't
to-
get fined type
Right.
energy.
He doesn't he's not leading the club. He's not
No.
trying. He's like, oh, this is what we did last year. Let me tell you. It doesn't sound
Yeah.
like that's his energy.
Mm-mm. But I think he's one of those people that like thrives off of being negative.
Right.
Which is disgusting.
Yeah. He a hater. Like they like through and through. So Elsie says, well, I wanted to say that I really enjoyed being president of Whitman's Soup Club, and I thought I'd gather the 4 of us together one last time before we're off to camp, and I got you each a gift. And like, Elsie is like, you suck, Bear, but I got you a gift too. Right? Like, as president, thank you. Amari recognizes the look of like her excitement, and she's like, what did you do? So she got them each fortune cookies that actually reveal their fortune. And Amari gapes and goes, but these things don't just reveal your fortune, they cost a fortune. And it's just a subtle reminder that Elsie is one of them.
Right.
She's adopted, but she's adopted into like a prominent, she got a
Like,
driver,
wealthy
you know what I
family.
mean?
Yeah.
She not worried about things. So.
But I also love that it's like a double entendre. Like when you talk about fortune cookies, no, it costs to be able to get a premonition like this. Like it's not your one of the mill pick it up from the Chinese store, they'll give it to you for free kind of fortune cookie.
Right.
It's a real like when I say fortune, people have lost their whole savings behind this.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what Elsie says. She drained her science fair winnings, but I happen to think you guys are worth it. And like Julia smiles, Amari's feeling all warm, and Bear's just hating.
Hating.
He perks up, but he did perk up. He did perk up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a good gift, right?
Mhm.
So then Julia cracks hers open, pulls out the tiny slip of paper. It's blank, and then she closes her eyes, whispering to herself before placing a piece of the cookie into her mouth. And then suddenly red letters appear on the paper. What does it say? Julia says, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And so she explains that she asked if she should stay in the Department of the Dead. And she goes, I guess being a medium does make me a good fit, which like, duh.
Yeah. Where else are you going to go?
You're a medium and you're in the best department.
Where are you going to go? Like,
I'm team Department of the Dead. Maybe she would go to the unknown. What is that one called?
Unexplained.
Yeah,
Maybe unexplained. I
Unexplained.
could see unexplained. But that's the only other one I could really.
I mean, what's the other one? The one that's
Good
like
Fortunes and Bad Omens, maybe?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. And then the guy who has his head off, that's the like experiment.
He's unexplained, I think.
He's unexplained.
Oh yeah, unexplained.
That dude. I hope he got his shit together this year. Keep your head on your body.
The head of the department.
And so then Amari remembers Julia going on stage at the welcome ceremony and gaining the ability to talk to ghosts seemed like the last thing she expected. But you never know which talent of yours will be upgraded to a supernatural ability. And then she talks about her being her magician ability being upgraded, or her having magic. So then Bear tries his cookie next, and he frowns when his fortune comes back, as sometimes the real enemy is in the mirror. Which he's like, he crosses his arm and turns away from us. No chance he's going to tell us what he asked. And I'm pretty sure he asked something salty about Amari, if Amari was like really a villain.
Right.
And then the cookie said,
you can ask about. Well, we'll see, but you can't ask about other people. So I'm sure
or like,
asked.
do I got? Maybe he's
do I need to worry about Amari?
Who thinks that he has enemies?
You think he got enemies? He's
you
like,
know?
Like how?
And I love how
I
told him to take a look at the man in the mirror.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Start with the man in the mirror. Make a change. No message could have been any clearer, Bear.
You know, if you want to make
the world a better place.
Every day you wake up and you walk into the bathroom, you look up. That's your biggest obstacle.
Enemy. That's your biggest enemy. That's your op.
Right
that's so funny.
As soon as you look in that mirror, guess who your problem is? That person that's staring right back at you.
So you're the one bringing the hateration into this dancery, Bear.
And I will say too, though, I do like the because he's a new character, but he's still like I wouldn't even say he's a secondary character, really, from what I can
He's a
remember from this book.
tertiary.
He's tertiary, right? But it's still like
I
I
remember
think
when I learned that. I was so excited.
yeah. It still says a lot about him as a character, and like tells us a lot that we need to know about him, even though we, you know what I mean, like we've only seen him for like 3 pages, and all he's done is hate. But even that,
and I think it
gives
also
you like okay, there he got some internal stuff.
Yeah. And I think it also reinforces that like Amari is having a moment, and like she's like got some celebrity and she's the good magician, but like you can't undo like all of this like prejudice and like what's the word I'm thinking of, like all of this like learning or whatever in like one summer with one viral video, right? So like it also goes to show that like, I mean, Bear in particular does not seem like the kind of dude that you want to hang out with or be friends with or whatever, but like also that his animosity towards Amari is kind of what she dealt with on a larger scale last year, but it hasn't gone away completely because she had this one moment.
Right.
So then Elsie, if we remember, is a were-dragon. Amari's like, I already know her question. The only you know, she wants to be able to shift, right? So like she takes hers, and her fortune says your hard work will pay off. And Amari says, that girl hollers so loud the whole place jumps. And I just love that like her and Amari are like equally excited. And so she's like, I think so. I might actually be able to shift into a full dragon this summer. Finally. Of course, the cookies are only right about 70% of the time, but I feel so much better. That's amazing. I'm really happy for you.
This is a spoiler-heavy podcast.
So. She does!
It's so and good. It's such a great moment. I can't wait to read it.
And does.
And did.
But I still love that she, like, they're such close friends. It's like there's a double thing here. I love that they're so close friends that Amari doesn't have to like wonder what Elsie asks. She knows.
Yeah.
Right. She's just like, doesn't even like say like, oh, what did you, she's like, oh, does that mean? She's already on the answer. She's not she's not asking anything. But also it's double for us as readers because we have seen from Amari's perspective, at least for one full book by this point, so that like we also know that's probably what Elsie asked or whatever, and like he gives context clues here about like she's been wanting to shift into a dragon, all that, whatever. But we also, because we kind of get the side benefit of also being part of Elsie and Amari's friendship, because we're also like clued in on what is it likely that Elsie desires and what does she probably ask for in her fortune. So I love the double love there.
And I love too that like they mention it again, but it's something that like kept coming up in the last book about the first time a were-dragon shifts requires a great act of courage. So it's also kind of like foreshadowing that like, I mean, I feel like we talked about in the last book, Elsie kind of gets put in the background, and it's like real at a certain point it really becomes like Elsie's like the woman in the chair, and it's her and Dylan going out and doing like the investigatory pieces and stuff. And so you don't really see until like the end a moment for Elsie to show like great courage, and like I think at that point she does like breathe fire, but it's not like the moment. So like there's a little bit of foreshadowing that like not only is she going to like shift, but she's gonna do something worthy of shifting, and so we are gonna get to see what that is. So it's all just very exciting. And so then it's Amari's turn. She breaks her cookie, and there's only one answer she's looking for, and so she goes, will my brother ever wake up? And Elsie grabs her wrist and is like, so sorry, 2 things. 1, you can't ask your question out loud, and it has to be about yourself for it to work. So that question of will Quentin wake up, while very important to Amari, would not work. And I also love how quick Elsie is to like stop her from wasting her fortune cookie, which cost her a fortune. Like, girl,
let's try again.
No.
You only get one shot. Yes, it's your chance of opportunity comes.
This cost me a bag. we gonna get a fortune. So then she, deflated, thinks about what she'll ask, and I kind of love this question or this question that she asked, because it's definitely like she was already like, as soon as she saw the fortune cookie, Quentin's top of mind. All of last book, Quentin was like her goal. She was focused on her brother, and so she's like, I don't know if I can't ask that. I don't know. So she asked, "Is there anything important I should know?" Which is like
so open-ended.
It's so open-ended,
like,
but it's also like my go-to question when I'm like in interviews or something. Like when I'm like, I don't really,
I don't know.
I'm not excited about this.
Nothing
but,
specific comes to mind because
Yeah.
the specific that you said to me has sparkled any interest in my
nothing
brain.
sparked.
Right.
So anything you'd like to tell me? And so then it says, beware of unseen dangers.
Bum bum
Bum,
bum.
bum, bum.
But again, because she asked a vague ass question, she got a vague ass answer. So you're just
And I
kinda
feel like
well,
she gets like kind of shaken up by that, but I feel like beware of unseen dangers is applicable if you're in the supernatural world or not.
Right. I'm like,
Right.
COVID? Air?
Right.
What are we doing?
Pop quizzes, you know?
Yeah.
A Van Helsing being your partner. Oh, that's a.
Is there going to be a ghost that's just like haunting her? She doesn't know about because it's unseen.
Exactly.
Like, what are we doing? What is the unseen part? What are we doing? I have a slightly philosophical question for y'all, and possibly also our question to the audience. Which department do we think is responsible for the fortune cookie? Because it says that you have to infuse the dough with used tea leaves from a successful prediction. So that's a lot. You have to be able to like gather successful predictions. A magic 8-ball has to be present in the room, and the stars have to be in a proper alignment. Also, the fire pit that you bake it in has to have yielded at least 3 visions in the past year.
Wow. I would say good omens, but it could also just be like an independent.
Isn't it good fortunes and bad omens?
Bad omens, yeah.
Yeah.
But I would
even
also
if they
think
don't,
like maybe they just buy
even if they don't make them, they probably just regulate it versus like producing them themselves. Maybe
but there might be the supplier, and also like I'm thinking like about like Elsie's department is like research. What is it? The
Department of Magical Inventions? No, research. No.
Magical science.
It's basically their R&D department.
She's a genius inventor, but like it's basically R&D. Yeah.
But I was thinking maybe there, because like how do they actually get to the components of breaking that down of like, you know, like they might be able to use like resources from the fortunes, good omens and fortunes or whatever to like use it. So they might be the makers while they just like source the materials from the other department. So that's where I was like, where does this sit? And is it like a private industry kind of thing or like a bureau created kind of thing?
Yeah,
I kind of thought of it as like a private industry thing, and that like someone who didn't want to be, or like a fortune teller or something, like kind of set up shop, but they would probably source some of the stuff from the bureau.
But I feel like you'd have to be really like very like inner liaised with the department of good omens, because it just requires such specific items.
Yeah,
you have to have like prediction. So it's like, I don't know, like our fortune teller, what are they called? I don't know what they're called in this world, but are they like constantly having predictions? It seems like something that doesn't happen super often.
Right.
Premonitions. I don't know. But I kind of love the like for-profit nature of the bureau in this line of questioning.
Right. Because they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or even if it's not like, somehow, even if they're just like taxing it. Like I could totally see them being like, okay, you have this many fortunes or whatever. You have to, I don't know, register yourself and also pay taxes. But they could also have programs or whatever, you know, like we giving out grants to fortune cookie makers, and then, you know what I mean? Like somehow, I don't know. They could definitely be involved in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I'm somehow just not believing that they would be as giving.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's maybe more bureau than it would be private, just because I don't know that they would be like that good at working with someone from outside of the bureau.
I also feel like that's probably why they're so expensive. Like it's a way to regulate it.
Those are the ingredients themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
True.
just make them like. I wonder if you actually have to make fortune cookies that way, or if it's just like the rules. You know?
I'm just wondering if it's
Well,
like
I'm like if they're
for them to be
knockoffs or
for them,
not as
for them to be the
good.
bona fide
Right.
ones, and I wonder if what the like the bad batches have been like, and like how like have there's been like incidences that like have like made them like put like level restrictions on stuff. Because
Right.
the
Or
book I
even
just
like, you know, like with magicians and like humans, like they don't allow like humans to have more than what is it, like 10% magic or
10%.
something like that.
Mhm.
So like it's Elsie says that it's like 70% accuracy. So like maybe you do something else and you get 100% accuracy, but they're like, whoa, that's too much
That's
power.
highly
So
yeah, that's like
yeah.
that's only for people who have like thousands of dollars and are like prime ministers of magic or
Mm-hmm.
something. But I feel like so like there's a book I just read not too far too long ago called Shubalik Lubique, and it's basically like Your Wish Is My Command in Arabic. And it's like a graphic novel, and it's like there's wishes and they have different levels of manufacturing for the wishes. And like a class 1 wish is like way more potent than a class 3 wish, and they started to like banning class 3 wishes because they kept backfiring so bad. They would be like the level of wish that most people could get their hands on, and they would come like in aluminum cans where you could just drink it from like a regular like with a soda. But like um there's this one guy who kept wishing for a car, and he would get like a tiny miniature Hot Wheels car, or a large car would fall onto the lamppost. Like you had to be very specific about like your wish, and it just kept going bad on him because the class 3 wish could not make that actual return happen for him because of how big of his wish was for that level of class of wish. So it's like interesting how that all comes together to me.
Yeah, I was thinking more about like self-fulfilling prophecies, and like if they are, I mean, I would think like they're 70% because once you know your fortune, you might start doing things that you think are going to like with Elsie,
Increase your ability.
yeah, she start just being completely reckless, thinking that that's going to be her, moment of
Yeah.
courage so that her shift will come, and then does something that just like ruins it so that
Right.
it doesn't
And
come
I
true
like
because she's chasing after it.
right. And like the again, like the fortunes aren't like even the other ones aren't specific. Like you can kind of glean what it's saying, but it's not like straight up, yeah, you're gonna turn into a dragon at the end of the summer. It's just like keep doing what you're doing. You know?
Yeah.
Like everything you're doing is gonna work. So just keep doing that instead of like, oh, it's
You
not
gotta
like a
level
that's
up.
so Raven vision.
Yeah.
You could argue that even that's how Raven visions. The visions themselves are not the problem. It's Raven being like, "Oh crap! Like I got to try to mitigate that or make it
Yeah,
happen even
either make it
faster
happen
or
or make it
whatever."
not happen. But that's what I
Yeah,
mean. Like
Yeah.
it does it in a
yeah,
way that like there's really nothing you can do. Or even like with Julia's, it's like grass is always greener. It's not telling her not to do it, but it's strongly
right.
suggesting for her to stay, right? But it's like
Yeah,
it's kind of giving direction without flat out just like telling her what
Yeah,
should
what to
happen.
do. Or
Yeah.
Interesting. Chapter 2.
Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works.
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike Big Wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Okay. So, chapter 2. First of all, I wanted to mention, like, so the art is arting on these chapters.
It's so cute. First off, I
Sorry.
I was like, did Elsie get a growth spurt? Why are they? But then I guess maybe because I just spent time with Ami, like that tall, lanky nonsense. Like both of them, legs for
Yeah.
days.
as if you didn't go through similar changes as a
Literally.
child.
Girl, that was like in 1802. Like I don't remember. Who remembers that?
Not 1802. I can't. But yeah,
It's been
no, it's
84
like if
years.
I'll post it on Instagram probably, but like this one of like Amari trying to I mean, you know, we're gonna read the chapter, but
Mhm.
Elsie's frozen and Amari's trying to like see if she's good, but it's just so cute.
It's so cute.
I love it.
It does motion really well. I love illustration that does motion really well, even if it's like it's all one dimensional, but it just does it so well. You can totally like get it.
You can tell that like, yeah, it's really great. Okay, but in the actual chapter, they're on their way to the Georgia Aquarium as a like last day of school field trip. It says that it was either do this or watch their teacher do Shakespeare for the 5th day in a row in the auditorium, which apparently is like actually a hard choice because she gets really into it, and so I guess it's entertaining, which good, you know, good for her.
That's nice.
I love that they make it like they make a point to be like, oh, it's not as boring as it sounds. Like it actually was a choice because like you read when you first read it, you're like, okay,
like everyone's
going on to this auditorium, to this aquarium, and then you're like, oh no, I guess not.
You just know that teacher is like that is her thing. Like they're like, you know, who like you don't even worry about it. Homegirl got it. End of the year.
She said, last week of school,
piece.
I'm in here.
She got it. She got it. Will her voice speak? Okay, don't even worry about it. She's on top of it.
She got the full week on lock. She's like, I'm doing King Lear on day 1. I'm doing Romeo and Juliet on day 2. Like, not playing around. But I could also like see, okay, after watching 4 days of Shakespeare, like,
let's do something different.
But I will say too, like, obviously this is the non-magical world or like or the known world, and it's still kind of like silly. And I like that for like as a middle grade, you know what I mean? Like, even though we're not in the magical space where all the, you know, Tiny isn't here trying to pretend to be human, but that's a very silly thing that I definitely remember middle school teachers would be doing random stuff, and you're just like, okay.
It's very last day of school vibes too.
Yeah,
so it
where
really
it's like
puts
who
you
knows
in
what's
that.
happening. And I feel like last day of school vibes is that like it feels like an in-between space in the same way of just like, you know, it's not quite summer, but it's not really school time anymore. So we're doing like fun things and slightly weird things, a little chaotic, and like, just different energy.
Like grades for what? Like you don't grade me on chilling and having fun and watching this movie? Because we won't sit here and watch this movie.
Right. So they're getting on the bus, but Amari isn't able to, you know, get into the excitement, into the field trip spirit, because she's still worried about that vague fortune, particularly the unseen part of the dangers, which like, yeah, of course, like beware of any danger, but if you can't see it, sure.
How are you supposed to stay ready if you don't know how to get ready? Like, what are you supposed to get ready for?
Right. But I feel like aren't most dangers unseen? Like,
that's what I'm saying. What does the unseen mean? Is it an airborne issue? Like, what is?
Or are they? I mean, you know, we're in a magical world. Is it like an invisible danger? Is it? You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like most of the time you don't see the danger coming. That's not always the case, but like in this case, like it's not like Amari has somebody that she's like, oh, this person. Like the Knight brothers are gone. Dylan's in prison. Right. So it's not, you know what I mean? So like, I get, but I do get being like nervous about it and afraid, because if somebody just told you, it's like somebody telling you like, oh, I got to tell you something.
Yeah, you'd be like,
and then you're like, you can't just tell me right now.
You can't tell, like you told me that I got to talk to you in 8 hours. That
right.
Is
that is like, why can't we just do it now?
My stress and my anxiety,
right?
No.
So like, oh, we need to talk, also, and you're like, about what?
Exactly. And then it's like an Elsie thing, emergency. And then you get there, you talk to them, and they're like, oh, I just meant that like, I'm going on a trip, and I wanted to see if you wanted to go too. Excuse me?
Right.
So like,
or like, oh, you were with somebody, I couldn't tell them in the moment, but now we're alone, like, we could have this conversation. Like,
and it's not even, and the worst part is if it's that, and it wasn't even that big. Like, oh, it was like something that like it's like an insider thing, but it's like not that big of an update. It's just like a tiny. You're like, excuse me.
Right. So this unseen danger could be like, you know, your mom is about to come around the corner and take you home because you were late to school. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. Like, it could be something like, it could be anything. So I get in like
unseen of the magic thing. Is it like, if it's unseeable, is it like you can't it's looming on the landscape. You can't predict it. It's like is it that kind of unseeable? But then if that's the case, then how can the fortune tell that it's coming?
And it's dangers, plural. There's just a lot of
Right.
ways and reasons to be anxious. I get it. I do understand. Elsie's trying to like comfort her. And it's kind of saying a lot of what we're saying. It's like, it could be anything, you know, it could be danger at the bureau. There's always, where, you know, camp is always dangerous. So,
And that's what makes it worse too, is because it's like
you're a junior agent.
everything,
you're going to be, you know.
Anything you do could be dangerous. Like, thanks. Wow, gee, gosh, that makes my anxiety feel way less to know that anything I do could be catastrophe. Thanks.
Right. And then, of course, it starts to, like, thunder.
Ominous.
So while she's feeling very, like, nervous, now there's, like, a, you know, physical representation of her anxiety and just,
I
like,
also love that she mentions the lightning from the first book, because like it's just like, ooh, we're learning more about like what she can do, and it's spoiler heavy, so like she can also like manipulate weather.
Oh, I forgot that.
She's Storm up in here.
Shout out to all of us.
Aurora Monroe?
Yes.
We're Aurora.
Yes.
Shout out to all of us having read this book, because some people are gonna be. I was really like, I don't remember what that lightning was.
I forgot it until I was like rereading, and I was like, oh yeah, she can manipulate the weather.
Yeah,
but I also read this book I think more recently than you guys
probably
did, because it took me a long time to get to the second book. You know how I am.
I also I did take a note of that, of like the first and second chapter, because this is something that I miss from being 12 and reading like series books in the 90s. They were always, now sometimes it would really be annoying. They would have like a early like first chapter kind of like summary of like what has happened so far in the series or whatever, so that you kind of like get back up into pace, because it's taken a while to get published or whatever. And I feel like chapters and this is like this lightning thing is like the end of like the summary period, basically, so get us up to date with like how Amari got here. And I think that it did like this way of doing it is like a step above what we used to get like in the like late 90s, early 00s for reviews, because they used to be so info dumpy.
Especially if you're reading it like back to back and you actually didn't wait. And you're just like, bro, I know.
Like, bro, can we? How far
I was already here
turning these pages until we get to the actual action?
Literally,
I can't.
So they're on the bus. And you know, just doing best friend things with Elsie, which in this case they're trying to catch each other slipping, which is hilarious because I do this with my siblings all the time. They fall asleep in the car, I'm gonna take a picture. So that's basically what she's trying to do. Elsie yawns, and so Amari's like, okay, I'm getting ready. I'm not gonna alert her to the fact that I'm like pulling out my phone and all this stuff, but you know, when she falls asleep, I'm about to get her.
I'm gonna be here.
And I like how like the tension kind of builds in that moment. It's kind of great because I really feel like reading it, I'm like a little bit on bated breath. I'm like, is she gonna do it? Is she gonna get it?
Right.
You're like,
I'm like, oh crap, is she gonna like jolt herself awake? Like she looks like she's gonna fall asleep, but nah, she's good.
Right, exactly. And you're just like, come on, Amari, you got this. You can do it.
You can do it. But move faster.
Right. That too. Because it really doesn't take that much. Like it really is taking the phone out, but once you got it, just
once you got the camera on,
get your little deuces up, stick your tongue out, and just click the thing.
As long as you get the camera on, you're good.
Yeah, you're good. Unfortunately, she's not quick enough because Mr. Ames does this great cheer in the front of the bus, and it jolts Elsie awake. And I'm also just like, okay, sir, you're an adult. Have some chill.
But it's cute. It's
like when you figure out what it is, it's totally
cool. It's actually cool. I just am upset for Amari that she didn't get to get to
But also, I feel more annoyed at Amari slightly because I'm like, girl,
it didn't need to take that long.
Like, waiting for the perfect moment is going to always be the downfall. Because if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, it's going to evade you. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. You just she got to be quicker on the draw. But I just felt like, of course, now Amari's never going to get that picture.
Her best shot right there, because she said Elsie was like in the middle of like a snore. I was like, that's a perfect shot.
Because you know that meant her mouth was open and her chin was back.
She needed to be so much faster. But it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. But it's fine. Even if Mr. Ames hadn't have shouted in the front, Elsie was gonna get woken up anyway. But Amari would have had a little more time that it took for him to get
She only needed to
them.
just go on and hit the button.
She just needed to. It could have been
easy.
blurry, even. You know, you could get you could. But anyway, so we find out that Elsie got into Oxford University, which is wild for a 13-year-old.
It's wild anyway,
but also really dope.
Yeah.
And you know, she has her magical ability is being a master inventor. So like,
genius.
Yeah. And she was a genius before that. So now it's like, yeah, of course. And so Amari is kind of like struggling a little bit. She's happy for her. Like, I think she's like objectively happy for her and is trying to hold on to that feeling, but she's also now like worried because Oxford is obviously in the UK. And so that's like across the ocean, and Elsie is her first like best friend, really, and she has had a lot of fun being at Whitman with Elsie. This was like their first year of school like together. So now she's really
one so far, the only one she's ever had with Elsie before.
Right. And also I think the only, I mean, we don't know obviously before like the series started, but from what it seems like she being in these, you know, she's been in these like private schools and other schools, so she's not like going to school with her neighborhood kids and stuff. And so she's like really one of her first friends that she's had in this kind of school. A lot of times she's really isolated and like alone and, you know, made to feel like she doesn't belong. And so this is like a 1 year where she had a great time because she had a best friend there, and now her best friend might be moving to London.
And you have to remember too that like she's at a new school where no one's talking about her brother, and she knows where her brother is and stuff like that. So I think it's like that is very realistic, but I also think it's one of those things like I hate about human nature, but it's also like just very human where we are all self-centered to an extent of like, what does this mean for me? And you could see her kind of warring with like that being the first thing that comes in her brain, but also not
trying to check herself.
Yeah, because like, I don't know, it just, and it's harder when you're 13, I think for sure. But like, she is, you can see when she like talks to Elsie, like she is not surprised, but she did not know that Elsie applied. So like she's learning all of this at one time.
And I'm sure it would have given her time to like process if she knew that Elsie was doing this. And even give her time to like root for her, right? Like you're just like, okay, I'm rooting for you, I'm hoping, and then in the back of your head, you're like, okay, I don't know what that's gonna mean for me, but I can root for you to do this. It's something you really want to do. As we, you know, we can discuss, what does this mean? If I get in, then like, you know, we'll be pen pals or we'll do X, Y, Z, you know what I mean? But for it to all kind of just be, hey, guess what? In 2 months, your best friend's moving to London is a lot to take in at once. So it's like it's a valid response or like thought process and emotion, but like also, you know, you gotta support your friends. So it's just like like Robyn said, like seeing her struggle with it and trying to figure out like, okay, I don't want to be a hater.
I'm not trying to be bear number 2.
Right. Like we're not trying to do that. But then of course, because Elsie is she can read auras, it's not like Amari can like get herself right before bringing up that. Like Elsie literally immediately is like, okay, what you're saying is not how you're feeling.
Like I need you to ignore my feelings, ignore my aura.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Listen to what I want for you, right? Like this is what I want to feel.
Look
not
at my
how I'm
lips,
actually feeling.
not at this.
Not
like
at
let me
aura.
process, please. The aura will change color in a minute. Just like let me get it together.
Give me a second.
So yeah, so they're just kind of talking about it. Amari does kind of express that, you know, one, she didn't even know that Elsie was applying, and then she asks, like, does that mean that for that next year, that she'll go to the London bureau for camp? And Elsie at that point is kind of like surprised because she didn't really think that far in advance. She kind of applied just kind of on an off chance, which is also why she didn't tell Amari, because she just wasn't really thinking it was going to happen, which is crazy. Like, imagine having imposter syndrome and your literal magical ability is to be a genius. Like,
Right.
we all need to do better.
I mean, you know, it's an institution, and
no, I
you
know,
never
that's what I'm
know.
saying.
Yeah, you never know. 'Cause people be salty for no reason. and
We
they
we
could
live in a
definitely-
society.
They could deny her this little adopted Latino kid
Mm-hmm.
from the U.S. joining Oxford, the
Right.
prestigious university.
Right. Absolutely. So trash. But anyway, so they're having that conversation. They're talking about it. And Amari's trying to figure out, you know, again, process how she feels. And then suddenly everything, like, well, first it's like, I think it's like the bus starts to fog up. And so then you can't like see anything. Amari's kind of looking out the window like, this is very strange. And then she turns to Elsie and Elsie's frozen. And then like, so is everything else. And you know, this is my jam. I love that.
I love that we get like whimsy, and then this is also like, is it whimsy? Is it darker?
Right. This is like,
is it
unseen magic or unseen
danger? You know, like right, and it's the second chapter. Like I just like he didn't.
The pacing in this book, the pacing in this series is so like it just keeps going.
Yeah,
it is so funny reading it as a podcast and not reading it just like for funsies, like because I like that it does make us have to like actually like slow down and like take things apart. But like when you're reading it, you're just like, oh no, just keep going.
What's gonna happen?
Let's find out what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, in chapter 3, Amari is highly unnerved by the fact that not only is Elsie like stuck in position, but as she looks around, everyone is. And she gets up, and she notices that each row of seats that she passes has frozen kids. So by the time she finally gets to where the teacher is, Mr. Ames, she's just like highly unnerved. And I also think it's funny, like as a character trait to note about Amari is that like when she's unnerved by this magical anomaly, her first answer is like, let's seek authority. Like, I need to go talk to an authority figure in this moment. I need to figure out what's going on. They are the person that can help me right now. And so she goes for Mr. Ames.
I love that too, because like Mr. Ames is not magical.
No.
And she's still like, nah, gotta ask an adult.
Right.
Like, you know, I don't know. And it's like, oh, did Magnus really like get that message set in stone? But I do think that it's interesting that like she's not thinking like, am I doing this? You know what I mean? Or
right.
Who's doing this? Or, you know, like whatever.
She's like, I want an answer, but the answer is not for her right now. Her brain isn't like, who? It's like, what is happening? Like, what in the world is this? And she notices that both the driver and Mr. Ames are frozen, but then suddenly there's sound and movement and everything goes back to normal. And it goes back to normal so fast that she jumps. And so does Mr. Ames, because he startles whenever he finds her directly behind him and asks her if she needs anything. And she's trying to test out like if she's the only person who noticed anything. So she's like, do you remember what happened just now? And he's confused and he's like, I don't know what you mean. And
be
so
better
she's
with specific questions.
Delivery. Yeah, she's not she's on her vague era right now. She's not on actual pulling together like straight up like definitive answer questions right now.
Mm-hmm.
He is confused and he says, I don't know what you mean. And then she's like, I don't know what he means. Like she's stuck. Like she's like, what? And he raises an eyebrow and says, is everything okay? Do you want to talk about something? And then suddenly he he has an understanding face and he says, perhaps you're concerned with Mrs. Rodriguez leaving. And I just think that's so nice. I just think I really appreciate him as a teacher. One, for seeing the like impact that Elsie has and putting her forward as someone who should be applying to Oxford University and like actually pulling it together for her. I just think that's so like not a lot of teachers actually go that extra mile to like put like a student in like this like different path, actually make it happen for them. And I remember I had my AP US history teacher. He noticed that I was like not getting like other academic awards, and he was like, that's sus, like you really should be getting other academic awards. He's like, I don't care about anyone else, I'm gonna make sure you get a history award. And he like, I didn't know he had applied me for that, but then I ended up getting it. And I'm like, I had nothing to do with the process. I just like, was just found out. And he was like, okay, you're gonna at the academic like end of the year stuff presentation or whatever, you go up because you have an award that you won. And I was like, oh crap. And that was all on the merit of like, he was like, you really like, you did that, you did all the work, you got a 5 whatever on your EP exam, you should be acknowledged for all your academic strengths that you've made. And I love that Mr. Ames did that for Elsie. And then he's not only just stuck on Elsie, he's also like looking at Amari, who he's like, he doesn't have that like as quick as a banter with, right? Because Amari was mentioning how Mr. Ames is Elsie's favorite teacher, but we don't see like Amari talk about how she's like, she's good with him or whatever. And he's even concerned about her and asking her like, do you want to talk about, your friend leaving? Like, is this something that we need to have a moment about? And I love that. Like, he didn't have to be that considerate, but he is. And I enjoy that. That's an adult who is aware of the situation, is actually getting kind of plugged into not only like the impact it can have academically, but also personally for Elsie and Amari as they go through this. So she shakes her head and says, it's nothing, sorry. Then turns her head back and heads back to her seat, and she notices that all the other kids are just like joking and laughing like nothing ever happened. And then when she finds Elsie, she sees her tapping away at her phone, and then she gives her a big hug and says, thank goodness. And Elsie's like, Amari, I haven't made a decision about leaving yet, And then Amari looks at her and says, you don't remember anything? And then Elsie's like, about what, the Oxford stuff? And then Amari's like, no. After that, we were talking about everything, and then everything froze. Well, except for me. And then Elsie lifts an eyebrow and says, everything froze? And then they get a red alert on their phones. And that's whenever Mari's like, I told you. And then they also get Elsie, specifically Elsie, gets a text message on her phone from Bear. And he says, meet me at the back of the bus.
Like, I know they got a group chat. I know they got a Soup Club group chat. And he was like,
Amari says, like, of course he only texts Elsie. Like, he has her number.
Right.
Didn't
even
they all got
about
that,
Julia.
They all got the bureau announcement. Like,
right.
Julia probably still at school watching the Shakespeare.
That's true. Making watching Shakespeare. True.
She's had enough excitement. She's like, I'm excited enough about Shakespeare.
Like, I don't know if will I see fish ghosts at the aquarium? I'm good. I'm gonna just
right.
But yeah, it's just so like, it's funny to me. I've gotten to the point. I think this is like something that happens with age, but I do remember it being like super heartbreaking as a kid when people go like out of their way to be petty and cruel.
Yes.
Yeah.
It starts to get funny because you're like, it didn't.
Yeah,
have to
when
be
you're an
that
adult,
hard,
you're just
you
like,
didn't have to be that
thrilled.
dramatic. Yeah,
you just like clock it, and you're like, oh, so you don't S with me. That's fine.
That's fine.
I also was having feeling vibes about you, so okay, we're good.
Yeah, but also
we're
like
good.
you did a lot.
You did so much to try to exclude me.
Yeah,
that was a lot of extra.
But as like a 13-year-old, it's like just and it's especially for Amari, and like we talked about, like she wants to be accepted. Like she spent her whole like first book in her last school being an outcast for things that she had no control over. Not like, oh, Amari talks too much, or Amari is, hyper or nerdy or whatever. Like, because Justin,
What are you talking about?
her homeboy who she gets into the
Jaden.
Jaden.
Yeah.
He knows that she's a little nerd, and he still likes her. You know what I mean? And still so it's not something like personality driven. And this is like just another example of her being excluded for something that she can't really control.
Mm-hmm.
And Bear sucks.
Bear just sucks. That's honest. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't care about, like, it's like he's not really excluding nobody, because she and Elsie both pop up over at his seat, and he scowls, but he gives them room. So where's exclusion? I'm still here.
Exactly.
And
And
what do you
you
think was
should
gonna
know,
happen?
like, at this point,
Right.
where Elsie goes, Amari goes. Where Amari goes,
You thought my
Elsie
bestie's
goes.
gonna leave me behind? You
Yeah.
thought that was gonna be effective in getting my bestie? Like, she cares about you more than she cares about me? No, thank you, sir. Pull together.
Ooh.
Delusion.
Coco stalking Luna. She's moving real slow. She can't see. She's invisible.
She's Drax.
And they're licking each other's butt. That was very anticlimactic. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
So he asked, and so this is also like kind of awkward. Like, Elsie, why'd you do this? So Amari is in the middle of him and Elsie, and so he looks past Amari to Elsie to ask Elsie, "Have you checked out the Red Alert yet?" Like, again, you're being extra.
Mm-hmm.
Both she and Elsie shake their heads and say that we came back after we got your message. He holds out his phone, and then he shows the Red Alert message that says that the Department of Magical Science confirms that a massive time freeze occurred over the most of Georgia, and the Department of Half-Truths and Full Cover-Ups is moving to correct affected clocks. The cause of such an unprecedented and dangerous display of magic remains unclear. They're all like confused about like, what does this mean? Elsie is like questioning like the magic of it all, and it's all making sense to Amari, who went through the time freeze, and she said, "Oh, hit our bus." But Bear takes Amari's like trying to pull it together as like, "Oh, I don't remember being frozen," and trying to make it suspicious that like Amari is unaffected by it, and that like it has to be a magician trick, and that she's in on it. And Amari's, pushing back, saying like, "Of course you'd think that." And Elsie is actually kind of like, was like, wait a minute. A freeze grenade can stop time in one person for maybe a minute, and it takes an incredible amount of magic, but they take months to recharge. So something like this, your magic have to be off the charts. And she looks at Amari as an example, and her words trail off. And then Bear enters in and says, "Like a magician," and he sneers. And he says it wouldn't make sense to set off the time freeze. Wouldn't it make sense for someone to make sure they weren't trapped in their own spell, for a magician to make it magician safe? And this is just like, it's annoying, because Amari's like, I can't back up from the fact that like, yeah, that does make it very clear that like, it does make sense. It is actually a good like sense making thing, but also like he's very clearly trying to point out like it's Amari, and it's like, why would Amari even do that? Like, and it's, for me, what a lot of the things that's like, for me, what's going on here is that like, the only thing that like Elsie really says, and she drops her eyes when she's not even like standing up behind this, is saying, well, we shouldn't just assume. And Bear is like, whatever, I'm missing the next update. He taps the screen a few times, and then suddenly the voice of Director Van Helsing, the worst person ever, is on the screen. Tomato. We start hearing him saying magic unlike we've ever seen before. Reporter says, "What can you tell us?" This was no harmless accident, but rather a targeted attack on our very way of life. Like, are you being hyperbolic? What are you doing? Our very way of life. It will not be tolerated and it will not go unanswered. Any idea of what or even who caused it? Magic this dangerous on this scale has traditionally been the work of the dark work of magicians. And it's with that in mind that emergency measures shall be taken to ensure the safety of our world. And after the clip ends, Bear
I like how
is
nobody asks him about, like, what about your magician son?
Children.
right.
Both of them are outed at this point.
The
Was
dark
Maria
magic
outed?
of
I don't know if
magicians,
Yeah.
you say.
Okay.
Maria was, remember
Yeah.
Dylan blamed Maria
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yep.
as like the illusion or whatever.
Yeah.
The dark work of magicians, like the dark work your kids did last year.
Yeah. Like, how you hating? I mean, I know how you hating, and like self-hate is a hell of a drug or whatever, but like, I don't know. Just relax, dude, because no magician has caused more damage recently than your own children. Your offspring. So
The calls
calm
from inside
down.
the house, sir.
Exactly.
The clip ends, and this is the peak hateration of Bear, and at this point, I am the Diane Carroll clip at the wedding of Whitley and Dwayne, where she's just like, just die. Like, I feel that way for Bear in this moment. The clip ends, and Bear sits back, and he has a smirk that widens, and he says, "Hear that? I bet they got your jail cell in Blackstone already picked out, sir."
Just shut up. Like, just be quiet. Nobody asked you, actually.
And that's exactly what Amari says. She's like, "Just shut up, okay?" And she meanwhile, homegirl's panicking. He just laughs at her in her face. And then she turns to Elsie and says, "Can Van Helsing do that?" And Bear, still being a top-notch bigot and hater, is like, "You bet he can." And then Elsie's jaw tenses, and then she says, "That isn't fair. Amari's sitting right next to me." And Bear is like, "Are you sure about that? Because when I got up to ask Mr. Ames something, you were dozing off. Matter of fact, look to me like Amari is watching you, waiting for you to fall asleep, looking for her chance to cast that spell, I think."
No, shut up.
I
Because why would she do that if then literally 2 seconds later Elsie was awake and they were both talking to Mr. Ames, and it happened
also
after
like
that.
criminalizing behavior that like is very innocent of a black kid. Like like I can't. The bigotry.
It's also like you cannot prove or disprove a negative, right, or whatever that's called. Like, she can't be like, I mean, she can, and she's like, "Well, that's because of our bet," but like, he's already made up his mind.
He is. And
So
he's been waiting on her to
yeah, and she's in his mind too. Like, she's a magician, so it's got very like conspiracy theory, QAnon vibes to it, where like, even if she does give him a logical explanation, there's going to be like, "Oh yeah, well, that's just because
they're gonna move the goalposts."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just like, don't waste your time, Amari.
But also, it's like, he was studying her and Elsie hard. Like, he didn't have to go look over at their freaking seat as he was walking by to see the teacher. He was studying and trying to see what they were up to. Like, he's full of it. Amari tries to disprove it, like trying to like answer like why it was she was doing that, and he's just like throwing crap at her, like about her being a magician and how they do stuff that shouldn't be possible. And he says, he even uses the fact that she stirred up, he calls a nasty thunderstorm last summer to bring down lightning on Dylan. That was not just an illusion against her, and he knows Amari don't got the answer, because like if she had the answer, then she could say, well, you know, like, oh, that's like, she would have like in her status as a magician, like not only is she an illusionist, she's also a X or whatever, and he knows that, so he's using her, not her leveling up, as something that makes her suspicious. And that's trash. Just all around a trash person.
I mean, he's been waiting on this moment.
He has.
He's been side-eyeing her the whole time. He's like, yeah, I don't believe it, whatever. So there's really nothing she can do about that.
I want to know what his magical ability is, because I bet you it's crap. I bet you his little freaking supernatural ability is trash, and he's just been looking to get in at somebody who has more power than he has. And then to be even more of an a-hole, he's like, yeah, that lightning that you cast, just like that thunderstorm outside, coincidence, huh? Maybe that's your secret. Who knows what kind of magic you're hiding? And Amari gets up, stomps down, and says, I'm out of here. And then Elsie's right behind her. When they get back to their seat, Elsie says, the fact that they're calling this an attack and not an accident means that there's more to the freeze than they're telling us. And Amari is like, what do you think Director Van Helsing meant by emergency measures? But as soon as she asked that question, there's an email from her on her phone from the Bureau that says, you've been uninvited to summer camp at the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs, effective immediately, from the Office of the Deputy Minister of the Supernatural World Congress.
Sorry, that's just not, this can't be how this works.
No.
You can't just be like, oh, this happened. Well, we're going to invite you just immediately.
Amari,
you haven't talked to her.
The one who chose to
mom.
not be a villain when offered the opportunity to be a villain, that's immediately the one that we got to get out of here.
But you haven't questioned her. You haven't talked to her. You haven't done anything.
No.
Just like, whoops, can't come back.
I think it's also like, you can see, I mean, you can see pretty quickly, like, Van Helsing being like, she's going to be the focus and take the focus off of my son.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes for people to be talking about Amari and not talking about the Van Helsings. Like, yeah.
It's very much like overzealous. You sat up here. Y'all this moment just happened. You just popped up at a press conference. And the first thing you did after the press conference is run up to the deputy supernatural congress member and be like, hey, we gotta get this little girl out of here. That's the first thing you did. Your first priority was to get Amari out of here. As a freaking director of a supernatural investigations department, that was your first priority. He's so full of it. So he's over, and then that's clearly overcompensation because you know all the newsreels, all the social media have been popping up this whole time talking crap about his family, and he's been Bear's been waiting to say crap about Amari. He's been waiting to get the weight of the pressure of his magicians and his family being the villains, not even just being magicians, being full-on villains. Off of him and throwing it on someone else, like you were saying. Like, I can't. Like, it's just, he's such an awful person.
He's the worst. All right, let's get into the MVP.
I was trying so hard to be like one person, but I can't because it's Amari and Elsie, and it's also like Amari and Elsie as a unit.
Mm.
Like, not Amari and also Elsie, but Amari and Elsie together as like a crime-fighting duo, Men in Black style.
I did Elsie. Like, shout out to her for getting into Oxford.
Also,
and for not being caught slipping. And the fortune cookies.
So Elsie lost points with me because I feel like she could have backed up Amari better, and she could have been checked Bear and not like she could have withheld fortune cookies from Bear until he agreed to not be an a-hole to Amari. So I just I'm irked by that. So I couldn't give it to Elsie this read. But I could give it to Amari. And I wanted to honorable mention Mr. Ames because I think he really came through in a way that like a lot of teachers don't have to, and he did. So I appreciate him for that. So it's an honorable mention for Mr. Ames.
Tight. Benched.
I had to give it to Bear. I was like, since I did Amari and Elsie, I gotta let Director Van Helsing sit for a second, but he will have plenty of opportunity, I know, for a fact. But Bear came out the gate hating 3 chapters in a row. Like, are you tired? Are you not tired? Because I'm tired for you.
That's his personality. He hates himself most of all. Don't forget. He is his own op. His greatest op is himself. But, that's not Amari's problem. So he's benched.
But I wonder if his question is like, what is keeping me from joy in my life? You are. It's you.
It's you. You're the problem.
You are your own problem. You're so full of hate that you can't see the joy. You just sit on the hate all the time. I give it to both him and Van Helsing because F that man and F Bear. They both need to sit on multiple benches in the rain while thunderstorming, no umbrella,
rain.
no protective materials, no ponchos, no raincoats, just sitting underneath a rain, like a cloud of deep rain, heavy rain.
Very real.
That's how I would like them to be frozen. I like to be frozen on a bench, getting wet. On a metal bench, mind you. So just dripping. Disgusting. While wearing jeans. Because then it just soaks on in and just drags you down even more. That's where they deserve to be.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
very
well,
petty, very, very specifically petty curse. I love it.
Let us know who you your votes for MVP and benched. The form is in the show notes, so you can literally, as you're wrapping up listening, just scroll down a little bit, click the link, and just add your votes.
And
Very
if you
easy.
are listening on Spotify, I think you could just add it in the app right now. There's a question. The question is, who's MVP, who's benched? Let us know. Thank you for listening. Join us next week when we discuss chapters 4 through 6.
Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com and follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and Black Nerds Create.
Bye.
Bye.